Okay, well, we are going to go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, we do want to thank you for spending your Thursday afternoon alongside us. I'm both from Snowflake and from Mouse Associates, and we do want to welcome you to today's webinar. So today, we are focused on a very singular objective, how to harness the power of Snowflake for your Oracle applications. Our intent is that you walk away understanding two things: the history, framework, and value behind Snowflake's data platform, and two, how it can be leveraged as a tool to extend the value of your application as it concerns ERP, as well as external sources of data and bespoke applications. Although it should be noted that for today's conversation, we are considering the ERP and in the form of the application to be the heart of the conversation, with everything else from a more peripheral standpoint, which is complementary, but more so an extension of that heart. So today I'm excited to be joined by Jim Kacha, a partner engineer over at Snowflake, and Srinivas Pathareddy, who is a VP of Analytics at Mouse Associates. So during the next 60 minutes, we will weave our agenda to discuss a typical day in the life for the Oracle application's users, data needs, and current sources. And actually, let me get to the next slide. There we go. That's better. You get the visual to support it. So we'll start with the typical day in the life and then walk you through an overview of Snowflake and the things it does both differently and incrementally that have changed the way that we approach data. We'll then follow up with specific use cases and data extraction processes to marry the conversation. And lastly, as more of a plus at the end, we'll end with a data extraction utility that we've created at Apps based on our history in the Oracle space to bring this concept to life. So before we begin, a few housekeeping rules and purposes. So today's webinar will be recorded. We'll be accepting Q&As throughout the session in the chat window and addressing them within a few breaks throughout the session itself, and then in more of a concentrated form at the end of the presentation. And Jim and Srinivas both have a wealth of knowledge to share, so please don't be shy in submitting your questions. So on that note, I would like to go ahead and introduce Srinivas to kick things off for us. Over to you, Srinivas.
Thanks, Audrey. So today we're going to focus on modernizing your application's data. It doesn't have to be hard going with Snowflake. And we want to start with a journey that most of our customers have started with. And this journey starts with different ERP applications. And in our customer base that we have seen customers using a variety of on-premise applications, cloud ERP applications, including Salesforce. And so the on-premise applications include all the way from eBusiness Suite, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, and more recently, customers have been using the cloud version of cloud ERP, supply chain, EPM, and including Salesforce. In addition to these applications, the customers more and more are adopting data sources from different other external devices, whether it is IoT devices, sourcing information from retailers, external sources, whether it is from manufacturing assembly lines or pharmacies or prescription-related information, depending on which industry you belong to. And then as we see that there's a wide variety of information. In some cases, the volume of information is a lot. And as a result, what we have seen the customers have spent a lot of time, effort in building applications today. They have built enterprise applications, whether it is on-premise or some form, whether it is a packaged application or a custom-built application. They have spent a lot of time and money in order to kind of bring up enterprise applications. What we would like to do is, I think we want to kind of use this opportunity to expand on that and take advantage of areas that have not been explored yet. There are still information that is out there sitting in ERP applications that may not have been explored, whether it is improving making your financial close faster, improving your supply chain process with better inventory projection, or improving your customer on-time delivery. Or getting IoT information, combining that with ERP applications, and deriving meaningful insights into the data. And all of this can be built and leveraged on top of your existing infrastructure, in addition to what you have built by using Snowflake. So identifying the use cases which maybe have been challenging before, because of which you may not have explored, or identifying use cases which may have come up new. I think Snowflake provides an opportunity to kind of include into the current mix of applications that you have and derive insights. So that is, I think we want to like to start this this discussion with this background of applications and what you could use Snowflake for. And then as we are talking to our customers day in and day out, we see customers, a lot of customers, as I mentioned, still using on-premise business applications, and then moving on in more recent years, moving on to the cloud applications. And historically, if you look at how customers have implemented data warehouses, analytical solutions, there's a mix of different options and approaches that customers have followed. They have gone through with packaged applications, implemented or built custom warehouses in-house, or used tools like Cognos or Business Objects or Click. And if you look at in all of these cases, there have been significant limitations customers have encountered in this process. I mean, it's not like they have achieved significant benefits, but they've also, it has also resulted in hurdles which is preventing them to move forward, whether it is not able to upgrade to the cloud because of challenges in scaling and having a better solution that can scale and not being able to upgrade. And then you've already made significant investment in your data processing and reporting, and definitely don't want to lose sight of all of that investment that is made. So the scaling and the challenges that on-premise customers encounter with difficult to scale has significant roadblocks in kind of enabling customers to use this information. Even on the cloud side, we are seeing as customers are moving to the cloud, the nature of data that is available or data extraction that is available is different, and customers are realizing how data can be extracted. There is other packaged applications which provide limited ability in order to use these solutions on the cloud. The extraction process that you would use, it also kind of make it very manual as part of getting information from the cloud, using it and transforming it into warehouse. So what we have seen after talking to multiple customers, working with them, we have seen these kind of these scenarios, or these are the kind of challenges that customers have been facing. And in most cases, customers have, they want to kind of continue to leverage their investment, but also they want to kind of have an opportunity where they can include new data sources, talk about a use case which may have been more challenging, or provide users more insight into information that is already out there but that they don't have access to. So I would like to talk about a typical use case where what we have seen is, in this case, customers have defined business process. They have very mature customers that have been using warehousing for a number of years with predefined metrics, use cases that that have been used to run their business in a retail industry which is heavily data driven. And but I think even having all of that, the users were still facing a limitation of not being able to access information, information that they could use easily. They could add external source of information into their existing warehouse, merge and build use cases out of those. And this has been a significant driver for an organization which is especially heavily data driven, in addition to using their current Oracle system. So this has been a starting point for many of our customers, where they kind of have significant benefits that they have leveraged, but they're kind of adding on with additional use cases with more information that they've been able to extract from external applications or from IoT devices, and being able to merge with the current solution in order to make it better. So what I'd like to do is, in order to kind of provide this background of the challenges and how Snowflake can help us, I would like to invite Jim into the conversation. I can explain a little bit about Snowflake, how it can help us in driving this, in helping users derive benefits of not only getting to scale the system, but also empowering users to access data more easily. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Srinivas. Once again, my name is Jim Kacha. I'm a partner engineer here at Snowflake. Previous to joining Snowflake this year, just to let you know, I was actually a customer of Snowflake's for 5 years at two different customers in the Chicagoland area. So I've been using the product for a little over 5 years now. So I just wanted to give you a quick introduction to some of the history of Snowflake and really a high-level overview of some of the benefits and why so many customers have made Snowflake part of their data warehouse and their data platform portfolio. So real quickly, Snowflake was founded back in 2012 and became generally available in 2015. At that time, we were really focused just on the cloud data warehouse with one region in AWS. Since then, we've grown quite a bit with a number of funding and relationships. The most recent was Salesforce that you may have heard of in June. A lot of good announcements on how we're partnering with Salesforce and a lot more to come throughout the year. Also, from an industry standpoint, we have a lot of nice press recently around kind of the Snowflake offering, not only from our customer service scores, but from Gartner and most recently from Forrester, who released a report on the ROI with Snowflake last week that is very interesting if you have the time to read it. And since then, we've grown to over 4,000 customers and are adding roughly about 500 customers each quarter. As I mentioned, we started off as a cloud data warehouse in one region in one cloud provider. And since then, we've grown into a cloud data platform handling a variety of different workloads, from data lakes to data science to the data exchange, which is something that's really unique inside Snowflake, and I'll touch on a little bit more. As well as growing to these additional workloads and features, we are now cross-cloud across both Google, Amazon, and AWS, making a Snowflake experience seamless across all of these different cloud providers. So customers that are really looking for that multi-cloud approach or have business throughout the world, Snowflake becomes a very attractive offering because of our capabilities that we have across these clouds and across these regions. So I want to touch on very briefly kind of the high-level architecture. I'm not going to go super deep, but hopefully give you a little idea of what makes Snowflake unique and kind of what's guiding the architecture behind the scenes. First of all, we want to start with the requirements of what we feel a true cloud data platform is. Starting with a single platform with a single copy of the data to support many workloads. No more data silos. From there, secure and govern access to all data all the time automatically. Delivering as a service so you can focus on your data and not managing infrastructure. Simply moving a database to the cloud does not make it a platform as a service. And then finally, deliver unlimited performance at scale, regardless of how much data is needed, able to scale vertically, horizontally, in real time without any disruption or impacts to other workloads, and only paying by the second for what you're actually using. And if you look at our three different tiers, each of these is separated independently, which means they can expand and contract automatically without being dependent on any other given source, starting with our centralized storage, where we have customers that have a few hundred gigs, all the way up to customers that have several dozen terabytes in the Snowflake environment. Moving up to our multi-cluster compute, which is really the horsepower behind the scenes. Not only is it independent from our storage, it's independent from the different clusters in an environment. That allows us to scale independently based off of not only groups' workloads, but the individuals within those groups as well. We have customers that have over 10,000 concurrent users on at any given time, all doing massively different amounts of processing and needs within their environment, but ultimately all needing that same underlying data to perform the functions for their data analysis. And then finally, the cloud data service level, all the way from optimizing automatically behind the scenes to doing all the transactional control, all the management, all the security and governance, so that you, once again, can focus on your data and not worried about trying to prep your data. All lying on top of a cloud agnostic layer, allowing us to have that cross-cloud reach for all of our customers. So if we look at why Oracle customers are choosing Snowflake, I can speak from a little bit of an experience. Both the customers I was at where we brought Snowflake in were Oracle shops as well. And we moved a lot of our analytics processing to Snowflake. First and foremost, workload isolation. No longer the need to make choices on what data was in the environment, who could use the system. having to have downtimes to do upgrades or patches or run statistics or do a variety of things that are needed that are preventing people from using the system when they need to use it. Secondarily, simplicity. The number of DBA roles in our environment shrunk significantly because a lot of those features that I mentioned before, and we'll show you a list of some of those as we go forward. But really letting Snowflake manage some of the heavy lifting behind the scenes and letting your engineers focus on the ETL, let your business analysts focus on dashboards and reporting, and let your data science team work on the analytics and algorithms needed to push your business forward. And then the automation. All the performance processes behind the scenes were designed to run or maintain themselves, which is a huge advantage when you're looking at the amount of time spent in a given environment just to get the data to a point where it's consumable in an efficient and scalable way. As I touched on some of those traditional platform shortfalls, whether they're on-premise or cloud solutions ported from other legacy systems, in all likelihood, your team is spending a disproportionate amount of time dealing with these low-value tasks. Across all of these areas, whether it be infrastructure, physical design, query tuning, availability, and maintenance, there's endless number of parameters to turn into knobs to turn. Time doing this is not doing what your company needs, which is actually working with the data. So what I wanted to do now is just kind of show an illustration or a build out of what a Snowflake environment might look like, starting with centralized data. All of your data in one location, whether you're handling data warehouse or data lake workloads, expanding to have different compute clusters or warehouses or workloads managed throughout your environment, which includes ETL and streaming happening while your analysts and data scientists are in your environment. The ability to scale up and to scale down based off of workloads, where we have our warehouses expand from one node all the way up to 512 nodes now, really being able to focus the demand based off of the workload you need at any given point in time. As your staff increases and you bring on more analysts, the ability to automatically expand horizontally to meet that demand as needed. The ability to bring in not only structured, but semi-structured data without any engineering, without any predefining of those structures, and having the ability to join and use structured and semi-structured data automatically in your environment as soon as it's loaded. The ability to do DevOps and to be able to get full-size environments up quickly within a matter of seconds using our cloning features. And then maybe one of the more important features that we have is all of these features and functionalities can be shared outside of Snowflake, both with other Snowflake customers and with non-Snowflake customers with our secure data sharing capabilities, whether it's our data marketplace or it's our data exchange. And I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about how this power can be expanded into your entire business ecosystem. In current state, to collaborate on data, you had to move data across environments. You would grab files from an FTP server, you'd scrape APIs, you set up different data marts to grant teams access to data. These pipelines are often costly and very time consuming to build and maintain. It was also unsecure because once the data was moved, it was out of your control and the data was delayed by design. With Snowflake now, the future state is secure data sharing with multiple customers being granted access to a single copy of the data. No copying, no moving, no delays. Business outcomes are faster, more efficient data pipelines, quicker insights, tighter collaboration, and more integrated business processes with your other business partners, suppliers, and customers. And when you look at the Snowflake solution, there's a variety of ways that our customers are using this. Starting for data for good in the COVID-19 example, we've had thousands of customers access our COVID-19 data set free of charge across the world, accessing it for medical reasons, for business decisions, for helping counties and government agencies make decisions on how to move forward based off of what's happening for their particular use cases. Expanding to data monetization, using our marketplace to really expand your audience and who you can quickly and easily share data and capitalize on any of those data. Private data exchange, which allows you to interact and manage consumers and providers within your business ecosystem for such things as supply chain efficiencies or data clean rooms for mergers or MarTech type activities. And looking deeper into really what Snowflake has done and really reversed how data sharing happens, instead of pushing the data out, really allowing your customers and your business ecosystem to come to the data and use it effectively, securely, in real time to get quicker insights and make quicker and better decisions. So with that, before I turn it back over to Srinivas, I'd just like to pause and see if there's any questions at this point before we move on.
Yeah, Jim, thank you for that level of detail. And just as a reminder, in terms of today's session, again, as you have questions, please submit them to the chat window itself and we'll address them. But we do have a couple, Jim, so this is actually a great pause in the conversation. So the first question is, let's see, do customers typically move all of their data at once, or is it more of a focused type effort?
Yeah, we have them in both cases, but for customers that have existing legacy systems, it's usually trying to focus on one area that they've had problems with or they have had trouble getting really moving within their prioritization or process. When I was with my first customer, where I was a Snowflake customer, we actually had a use case where the data scientist team was having access, getting the time they needed to run their data and bringing in other third-party and data from other systems. So we really started with that use case and built out a Snowflake environment for our data scientists to really have unfiltered access to production data and allow them to combine that with all of their other data sets they had and gave them the scale and performance they needed. And from there really added and extended the ecosystem based off of other use cases based on what we've learned and the other needs within our organization.
Excellent, okay, thank you. And then let's see, and then actually one additional jump, so you're not off the hook quite yet, but what is the recommendation of blending multiple instances of Oracle ERP together?
With inside Snowflake?
Oh, let me read it one more time. The recommendation, yes. The answer is yes.
Okay.
Thank you, by the way.
I'll let Srinivas add any comments. From our standpoint, we don't see an issue with it as long as the underlying data, there's a good structure to be able to combine it and bring it together. Putting all that data in its raw format gives you both, really the ability to do both. Focus on how you want to bring that data together and also be able to analyze it in its unique structure where depending on how your organization is using that, you can use it in both a combined model and a separate model based off of our role-based access structure and really allow the security and features to manage who sees what and how they go about combining it either through ad hoc SQLs or creating secure views on top of that data where you're forcing them to have a centralized combined look at that data based off of your definitions. But a lot of good data modeling techniques. Yeah, I'm sorry. A lot of good data modeling techniques will come in there to make sure you stay out of trouble when you're combining the data across. Yeah.
So what we have seen, in addition to what Jim has mentioned, what we have seen is, especially when you're trying to combine multiple data sources, the ability to store, I mean, the two factors to consider that we have seen, the ability to store all the detailed information from the multiple source systems, that's one. And the second part is, and also combining the different data sources into a transformed data set that can be reported together. So if there are, depending on the kind of data sets that you have, you would need access to report on the combined data set, and also in addition, you would also need to have access to the individual data sets, typically in a data lake environment, where you can build your use cases on individual data sets or on the combined data sets. So I think the data lake approach here is normally what we have seen is a starting point where users have been able to get, businesses have been able to get their combined information into the data lake for more analysis before combining it and transforming it into more reusable metrics.
Okay. All right. Well, just as a reminder, the chat window is always open. So we'll continue on into the next section. And then from there, we will take questions more towards the end. So in lieu of that, Srinivas, I think we'll continue on towards more of the data extraction piece. So just to level set and to circle back to the beginning of the discussion, the intent for this message is, again, focused on the ERP application as our source, with everything else to be complementary to that. So as part of that process, wanted to outline how things have been done from more of a processes standpoint, and then segue into more of how things can be done based on the data extraction process itself, which is a result of a couple different key business applications or BI functions. So Srinivas, if you would please walk us through a couple of those different examples, and we'll segue into a couple case studies, and then continue on into more of the applicable piece of how we can start to create shape and form behind the application. So over to you. Thanks, Srinivas.
Thanks, Audrey. So what we have seen, we have seen this, the different scenarios that we have encountered with customers using different applications, whether it is on-premise business applications or the cloud applications. And for each, the approach for each has been different, how you extract information. And that's been one of the key drivers or starting points the way we see when we work with ERP systems. And we'll start talking about on-premise systems. I think we have worked, on-premise systems have been around for quite some time. The nature of how we extract information has been pretty straightforward, or has been well defined, whether it's with respect, whether we use direct access to the objects itself, or whether we employ a data replication tool that we have, which kind of enables real-time replication, or we build manual extraction process, whether it is creating reports within Oracle application itself, or SQL development tools. So in each of these cases, there are, depending on the type of need that we have, whether it is an automated, the kind of automation that we need, or the kind of processing that we need from the different on-premise systems, we adopt an approach that would work for the customer. And but more important than the extraction, as far as on-premise is concerned, what we would like to focus on is how customers have been able to use, in addition to what they have built, right? They have, as I mentioned, these on-premise applications have been around for a long time. Customers have built. They've used, whether it's packaged applications or custom-built warehouses, solutions for a long time. But they have encountered significant challenges. We always had to kind of identify what data would need to be stored in the warehouse. We always had to worry about how much data we want to store in the warehouse, whether it is in the form of attributes, whether it's in the form of data sets that we want to extract. And the reason was storage was closely tied to the compute resources, and any change would need to kind of expand on both of them. And as a result, the number of, whether it is determining the number of snapshots that we want to capture in order to do trend analysis, the historical data that we want to capture in our warehouse has been restricted and had to be carefully thought out. And in some cases, and especially in this one, because of historical information that did not exist in its native form, the customers had to had difficulty in order to kind of reuse historical information, because when you kind of when you redesign your system and you're trying to identify attributes that you can leverage out of historical information, you realize that you missed out some and you're only left with a few, right? So those are kind of typical challenges, in addition to making sure that your performance needs, whether your ETL is completing on time, while users are constantly running reports, and you don't have to really kind of coordinate when users would really need to run the report while the ETL jobs are going on, or the ELT jobs are going on. And that has been a significant driver, in addition to making sure that users are able to access information seamlessly, right? Able to kind of capture daily snapshots, monthly snapshots, especially if you look at in the retail industry, the volume of data is huge. And loading that sales information, for example, at the lowest level, and doing that comparative analysis, whether it's daily and monthly, in order to identify what products are kind of growing with respect to sales, or what products have kind of reached the maturity or kind of slowing down, is an important analysis for the product marketing team itself, and able to, as Jim mentioned before, able to isolate those jobs, right, so that we're not really dependent on what ETL jobs are running and what queries can be run before the ETL can be finished. And ultimately, I think the ease of use has been a significant driver. The ease of sharing information across divisions, both internally, externally, has been very important for this customer, and ability to kind of load information, like you have information that is already defined in your warehouse, but get that information, merge it with external sources from further insights has been key. So what the customer has seen here is not only significant usage in the data, significant efforts in order to make sure that data insights have been are being generated, and then ultimately the performance needs of the organization is being able to met. So I mean, as you go through this this particular scenario, and then you move on to other cloud applications, right? How we extract information from cloud. So within the cloud ERP itself, you have different options of how you extract information. You have we use traditionally over the number of years we've been using BI Publisher to extract information, any information from the cloud, and that has been the primary source of how information can be extracted from cloud ERP applications. And there obviously there were limitations with respect to the volume of data that you could extract. They had to build in workarounds in order to make sure that we deal with volume restrictions that was available, that we could kind of really pull information out. And then obviously all this had to be done by building custom SQL code, making sure that we write individual programs in order to get this information, move it over to a server which can be used for further processing. But the good part obviously is you can get any data, you can deliver multiple files to different locations, and that has been kind of the starting point of how most of our customers have moved ahead. But before we go on to like where Oracle is moving towards as a standard process, I just want to touch upon the REST APIs. The REST APIs are there. It's mostly used for integrating business process, integrating applications within the organization, and I think there's limitations with respect to the volume of data that you can kind of extract and process using the REST API, and also the coding that's involved. So more recently, the BI Cloud Connector has been a tool of choice in order to extract information, and this is primarily because more and more objects are available from Oracle in order to, that can be scheduled, whether it's in a full mode or incremental mode, and can be extracted in the form of CSV files. And then the good part about it is all these objects are available as part of the standard tech stack itself, where you don't have to really write any custom code in order to get this data out. So we want to look at the different, take a closer dive into some of these different options. And before we do that, as we go through the cloud scenarios, right? In addition to the Oracle ERP solutions, we also talked about in the beginning of the presentation, we talked about customers using NetSuite, and NetSuite has a different set of customers that use this application, and what we have seen is the nature and how you extract information also is different with NetSuite, and this customer is in contrast to the previous examples that I talked about, where they're very mature and they have as a big industry and have kind of leveraged Snowflake for use cases which have been challenging. But in this case, customers, there are a good size of customers that are leveraging Snowflake because it's very easy to get started, right? You have an industry or you have an organization that is small today, but there's an opportunity to grow, and the organization grows along with as the organization grows, the consumption of Snowflake or the use of the warehouse itself grows along with the growth of the organization itself. So even though this particular case, the company has been using QuickBooks for a number of years, I think they realized that at some point you're not able to leverage some of the manual. They were not able to kind of move ahead with some of the manual process that had built in, and as a result, they had to move on to a solution, and they found Snowflake to be a natural choice where they could start small and expand as the needs grows. And they were able to combine detailed historical information from sites like QuickBooks and NetSuite in order to combine both sets of information and in order to do a proper customer analysis, project profitability, risk analysis, all of those key metrics which are important to drive the organization's performance, measure the organization's efficiency, and get rid of all the manual process that is kind of built into that were built into it historically. So as you can see, I mean, there are two different scenarios or two different use cases that we talked about. And then this is one area where, I mean, either you start with a smaller use case and expand on it, or you're trying to build a warehouse in a very small scale, and you expand upon it as the organization grows. And so as we and then talking more about the different options that we have with the extraction, we mentioned about BI Publisher, and within BI Publisher itself, and as I mentioned, this has been a reporting solution that has been provided by Oracle, where you can create your reports, build and create pixel perfect reports as well. But I think, but the thing that what we have done at AppSource is we've been able to kind of take this and kind of extract this information and move it to different external locations, whether it is moving it to Amazon S3 or Oracle Cloud Storage or Windows VM, or moving it to an SFTP location as well. So we've taken this approach and extract information and build in process where customers would be able to leverage this process that we have built and not manually, but remove the manual process and automate the process so that the data can be moved seamlessly into Snowflake. Another process which is the Oracle recommended process, the BI Cloud Connector, which I briefly mentioned before, and this has been the most standard approach that more recently customers are moving towards, is because of the nature of objects that are available within the tech stack, and also based on how you can schedule those for full and incremental loads within the Oracle application, and then as a result you are able to generate CSV files that get stored either into an Oracle storage location or into UCM server, and after that you'll be able to take that and move it into an Oracle store into an external storage, or transform it and move it to Snowflake. So as you can see, there are different steps that are involved, whether we use an extraction process that we had used earlier with respect to BI Publisher, or more recently with the BI Cloud Connector. You can see these different options have been fairly manual in the beginning, but the automation that we have brought in has enabled customers to kind of leverage leverage more and more information from Cloud ERP, combine it with other applications that exist within the organization, and transform it and make it get it loaded into Snowflake for reporting. So at this point, I would like to welcome Audrey back to kind of talk us through the options that we talked about. I mean, how do we leverage the extraction options that we talked about, and how do we take this forward and make it much more easier for Snowflake to consume?
Mm-hmm. No, that's where we're really going to drill home. And before we do, Srinivas, actually, I have a couple questions that are pertinent to the big data extraction process that have come in. So if you're able to now, want to address two of those. So the first is for daily and monthly snapshots. Which method is ideal in Snowflake?
So from a Snowflake
so you have
Go
ahead,
Jim. No, you go ahead, and I'll touch on the Snowflake part of that after you get done.
Yeah, so there are automated ways of how you can take snapshots within the Snowflake functionality itself, and I think I would like Jim to kind of elaborate on those, because I think there are ways where you can go back. I mean, where you can go back to either historical information or also take snapshots on a daily basis. You can have those scheduled or manually created as needed for the snapshots to exist.
Yeah, and the way I'm assuming it is snapshots from the source systems into Snowflake. And from a Snowflake perspective, we handle both equally. It's really, what's the lost opportunity that you miss by taking a daily snapshot through a monthly snapshot, both in the time to be able to use that data and the amount of changes that are happening between the two. With inside Snowflake, we have a concept called time travel. And what time travel allows you to do without any work, it's just right out of the box, is to go back up to 90 days and see how the data looked at a precise millisecond in time or before a query was run. So as you're bringing this data into Snowflake, we're processing it, we're loading it, and not making it available to the users until it's completely loaded. But keep in mind, all of those snapshots are automatically being recorded up to 90 days based off of every delete, truncate, update that is happening. So from a Snowflake perspective, it's really what are your analysts and your data scientists losing by having a monthly snapshot instead of a daily? Because from a Snowflake processing and storage, we handle that very easily. We don't have issues, and we can expand without impacting any other workloads that are going on, with that key feature of having time travel, which helps with things like CCPA and GDRP and the right to forget policies that many customers run into.
Excellent, thank you. And then the second question, what ETL tools used to move data? I'm assuming what ETL tools were used, showing up in your examples, to move data into Snowflake? I think you're on mute, by the way.
As far as customers are concerned, we've used Talent for some customers. We've used Informatica Cloud for some other customers. And more recently, customers are also moving towards building their own ETL using Python. And the use case that I talked about with respect to NetSuite, that was built using Python. And so the nature of ETL tool, I think most ETL tools ultimately serve this a common purpose of moving data, and in most cases you'll be able to use the standard ETL tools. But I would say Informatica, Talent, and Python have been the most common that we've used.
And if you're looking for specifics, if you went to Snowflake, Google Snowflake partners, you'll be able to find a complete list of all of our partners out there to see if you had a specific one in mind. But yes, I think Srinivas covered that pretty well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for addressing the questions, and thank you again for submitting the questions to everyone involved. So where I'd like to transition the conversation is based on the relevancy of the application as it pertains to leveraging Snowflake as an extension of the ERP, and based on our history with Oracle as an application base more generally. What we've done is found a way to automate the solution, to automate the process. And so going back to, again, the full conversation, as I mentioned earlier, we want to make it easy to see this concept come to life. And as I like to say, to spin curiosity into an actual. So this process relies on historical knowledge of the ERP data and how it is constructed within the business. So if you toggle over to the next slide, Srinivas, you'll notice that these are a few key examples, again, based on our source data, which is the Oracle ERP. So for example, things that are specific, and I'm looking at my other screen right now, but such as net cash flow, debt equity ratio, from a payable standpoint, knowing whether or not you have upcoming payments, unprocessed invoices. And so these are items that from a day-to-day perspective, there's great insight to be had. And at the same time, it's a matter, similar to what Jim said, of being able to pull that out, to put it into a form that can be accessed, actualized, and then eventually, hopefully insightful in terms of going forward. So what we've done here at Apps Associates was to create a 3-step process to make it easier for you to see your Oracle data come to life, leveraging Snowflake. So in this process, more specifically, it's really threefold. So 1, we focus on selecting your data extraction per business focus area. And then 2, sitting back and letting more of our pre-built scripts do the work. Again, based on our inherent knowledge and long-time exposure and experience working with the application. And then 3, explore that data in real time, again, powered by Snowflake and a really slick, simple to understand, simple to use interface. So if you drill into this a bit more specifically, going back to the different data extractions that Srinivas mentioned earlier in the form of the ERP source, you'll notice that cloud-based applications such as Cloud ERP, NetSuite, you'll see some of the more peripheral bespoke applications I mentioned earlier, such as Salesforce, and then some of the on-premise solutions. And so from there, again, leveraging that connection information, we transition over into a list, very notably a list of key business areas by topical focus. So for example, talent acquisition, manufacturing, financials, of which within each one of those, there is a series of transactions events that then we can be more specific in selecting to, again, filter down per your interest, per your need, these specific types of data. And then lastly, like I mentioned, leveraging the scripts and the backends. You can use sitting back and not doing much. Taking out, and I would say really the value behind this is taking out the really manual process that Srinivas hinted at as he went through the examples of the data extraction through technology, again, through inherent IP, to bypass that process into the form of something that then you can tangibly see and see come to life. So this is something, yet again, is just a simple starting place. Taking the curious to the actual is, again, the way that I frame it. It's not a full POC, but it's something that our customers have seen great value in, because for the first time they can see their specific pieces of ERP-specific data in a new form, again, that touches on the inherent benefits of the cloud and what Snowflake does as a true data platform. So Srinivas, we'll continue on to the next one. And this is, again, more of the marketing piece, but as a call to action, and I would highly encourage, if you're curious and you want to understand how this applies directly to your business as is, this is the one thing that I would suggest as a next step, and do get engaged with our team to learn a little bit more about it and to go through that three-step process. So lastly, I am transitioning into just the more of who we are, and then I'll open up the floor to additional Q&A, which I do see that more have come in. So thank you, and actually use this as a great excuse to submit final questions and we can address them. But you know, we at Apps Associates, and again as a strong partner of Snowflake, are really focused on the Oracle customer. We have a breadth of experiences that extend for more than 30 years that are focused exactly on this. And I would say in terms of the evolution of the Oracle application customer, whether from on-premise to the cloud, you know, our practice has inherently been built on that story. And Snowflake for our customers is very much part of that story. It's a way to extend the application, extend the Oracle core, to derive very specific value in an incremental way that really just carries the torch forward in terms of the modernization of the Oracle application in the analytics space. And so for that reason, again, this is an overview slide. We can touch more on it, but know that we have great people, history of doing it, and then again, a breadth of services to accompany it. So in light of that, I thank you for the time and want to go ahead and transition to more of a Q&A with our remaining 12 minutes. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. So this, let me see, Jim or Srinivas. Okay, so number one, does this process read data over JDBC or database logs? And I'm assuming he means more of the automated solution. So Srinivas, this is probably a question directed towards you.
Yeah, as long as there is a JDBC connection available, we should be able to connect to the application and extract data from the source application, and if there are log information available, those particular logs can be either moved over to a particular storage location that can be then moved over to Snowflake. I think both with respect to a JDBC connection where you directly make a connection to the database, extract information, real-time information. And also with the logs, they're different. We have kind of accommodated both different sources into our application and use that for customers. So both of them are possible, especially if you look at IoT information that we are extracting. We extract IoT information which is extracted from the devices, moved over to a storage location, and then ultimately transferred and transported to Snowflake. So the logs would be very similar in that aspect.
Okay. All right, thank you. And similarly, does this process support CDC?
Can you repeat that question, Audrey?
So the question is, does this process support CDC?
Yeah, so any changes in data is also captured. So there's inbuilt functionality, whether you're extracting data from JDBC or whether you're extracting data from logs. In both cases, you will be able to kind of identify any changes that are happening to the data and pull in data into Snowflake accordingly. So that is kind of an inherent process that we follow.
Okay. All right. I think I have one more. All right. What are the necessary prerequisites in order for us, so it's say someone generally, to use the automation process and load into Snowflake?
So I think the good part is, I mean, there are not too many prerequisites. I think once we have kind of talked about different source applications that we have experienced, that we worked with our customers. So at this point, in order, like say if you're using an Oracle Business Suite or using Cloud ERP or Netsuite, we would be able to kind of select what your source application is. And then once you've selected the source application, all you have to do is provide the connection details for the respective source application, whether it is on-premise or on the cloud. So once you provide the necessary connection details, and the next step would be to identify the business area. So in the previous slide, Audrey had walked through the business areas, whether it is financials, or whether it is payables, receivables, or inventory or sales orders. So identify the business area that you would want to be extracted, and then choose the necessary transaction events within that business event, if it's applicable, or if you want the entire business area itself, you can just choose the business area. And then the third one is identifying your destination or your target, in this case Snowflake, which will be where you need to provide the connection information for Snowflake. So once you've provided all of this information, it's a matter of enabling the button or clicking the button and having our process run behind the scenes so that we can see the data within Snowflake. So it's going to be as simple as that.
Okay. Jim, I'm looking at you, and in the sense of any additional commentary, anything further you'd like to share. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. But wanted to give you the floor first.
No, I'd just like to thank App Associates for the invitation, and to learn more, just feel free, obviously, to reach out to these guys, and they'll be put in great hands, and we'll be supporting them as we move forward as well, wherever they need it as well.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you and the team so far. So again, all thank you for tuning in on a Thursday to learn, again, around a very specific topic, but we have strong relations with Snowflake and really appreciate the value that they bring to our customers as well, and just the power that we've seen behind it. So in terms of any further questions, or if you'd like to get started on more of the automated process or anything else pertaining to Snowflake, or more generally, shoot us an email. There's an email located on the slide, contact us at assassociates.com. But in the meantime, know that we're more so interested in just starting a conversation on your data needs and what we can do to assist in that and to help showcase a bit of the value. So again, I'm Audrey Eloquin, I'm the Alliance Manager at App Associates, and thank you again, Srinivas and Jim, for your time. And for everyone else that joined in, stay well, and thank you again, and we look forward to being in contact in days to come. So
Thank you.
have a great weekend. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.